Hello again, it's Peter from Records. On this short video we're going to follow on from the previous one where I was setting up the guides and the tracking of our SABRE-250 here, and now I'm going to fit the table, the fence and set it all up for you. So we'll start off. I'm going to move the tool arm out of the way. Now on this machine at present I've got fitted a 1/2 inch blade, which is ideal for what I'm looking to do, which is set the fence up, so I can set that up quite square to there. It's a nice size blade. If you haven't got a 1/2 inch blade, a smaller blade would do. The blade that comes on the machine, I think, is about 10mm blade, 3/8 blade. It's just a case of just taking your time and just setting it, like I say, the table up square. I've already put in the table bolt, and this is for squaring the table to the blade. And I've refitted the bottom guard and checked out it's okay. That's not rubbing on either side, because you can centralise the table off the table insert, this guard, with the 2 screws, and also you've got the screw at the side for moving it backwards and forwards, and the 2 screws at the side of there as well for getting it all nice and square as well to the blade. So that's all set up now, top and bottom are set up. So what I want to look to do, like I say, is introduce the actual table itself. And the table's going to sit on this unit, the part of the trunnion, and you've got a little scale on there that sits on there, and then you can zero in your table once it's square, once we've set it square. But first of all, I need a couple of bits. You'll find in your bag of bits, you'll have a little bolt like this, rounded bottom, washer, this insert. Now that sits in there, so you've got a slight radius on there, so all I want that to do is be fitted in that way. So as that sits in there, passes through that hole, make sure it's in sits in it squarely, and then that just goes into the hole there. So that allows that to move up and down on there then. So what I want to do now is put these little bits on. This is a little bit fiddly underneath, but what I normally do is just take this off. So you get yourself a screwdriver, undo this little screw on here, and just do it with care, because there's a little spring underneath. So keep that in place. Put that on there. And then this is double-sided, so you've got the larger thread in there and the smaller one to take the screw. So what I want to do now is put that on there. If I just keep my finger on there, it'll allow me to screw that onto there. Just hold that in place. So now that's secure on there. And what I can do is put that back on, and then this piece back on. So I've got the spring. The small part of the spring is towards the bottom, the larger part to the top. You can see that. So that just sits in there then. I just find this easier to do, because the small components just pinch that back up, lock that off. What that does then, I can lock that off in the different areas when I'm doing my tilt. So initially I want to bring it round to 0, just pinch it off on there. So onto the table. The table I've already cleaned down, and I've wiped this all over, so it should be all nice and clear everywhere. And in particular I've paid attention underneath as well, so it's all nice and clear under there. Now you've got 2 options now. I can manage this table quite easily. but it depends what you fit. So you can either leave the bandsaw blade on or take it off. So it's your option, whatever you think is easier to do. You've already got the screw in there, and you've got quite a wide plate on here for the table to sit on. So just pinch that off, like I say, in the 0 part, that on there, and then what I do is just gently pass this over the top. That'll rest on there. So I can rest that on there and just bring that up a touch, just to take the weight of that. So I can get in there. So what I want now is 4 hexagon bolts and 4 little spring washers. So shortish hexagon bolts and these little spring washers, and those are going to just hold my table in place now. Find the holes. Sometimes if you're struggling finding these little holes underneath, I would be able to poke something through. Usually when you get the one, you just follow on pretty easily. So I just want to pinch that one up initially. Do another one. Again, sometimes it's just that little bit easier to find the hole with a screwdriver or something. So if I take that down to the face now, and just lock these up loosely, I just want to get the faces together. Right, back those back a little bit. A little bit more fiddly than normal. What you can do, I'm trying to keep it to camera for you as well. Move that around a little bit, I can see a little bit clearer. There you go. A bit awkward the first time. There, it's a little bit easier as long as you can see okay. Again, I'm just going to pinch those up to the face. Ease them back. So what I'm going to do is get a little bit of movement in there. So if I put my finger on there and just lock that off, I want a little square then, just to check this blade out. So I want that to be square to the table. Tool arms up all the way up. So it's a little bit, wants to come up a little bit. Let's see. So all I want to do now is take a little bit of lock off there. I don't want to fight against that, and I just want to raise the table. Right, I'm square onto there. And okay on there as well. So now I can look to introduce the actual fence rail itself. So if we bring this round, I've got two locations at its either end, and then I've got the centre location. So on the centre one, there's a 6mm cap screw, and you've got a washer and this little locking knob sort of thing. So the cap screw through first. Put your washer on, and this. And what this does is going to confirm your table. So this is going to be nice and level to transfer stuff across, and that's what that unit does, and that's the same on all of our bandsaws. Basically, you have one of those on there, so you can just transfer across there. And it's ideal to always do it to keep it in place. Just keeps, like I say, the table all nice and square. So next part that goes on is this bracket here. This holds the actual fence itself. You've got various notches in there to accommodate the fittings to go underneath there. So I just want to make sure there's no dust or anything on there. And all this is nice and smooth and clean. So that just sits in there. And all those that hold that in place. You've got a couple of these little knobs with 3 little raised points on there. So they are there. And a couple of little 6mm washers. So they sit at the end here. Got your holes already drilled and tapped inside. And I'll just put the smoother part of the washer facing upwards. If you have a look at a washer, it's been stamped out. One side's got a little bit of a radius and the other side has got a sharp edge onto it. So what I want to make sure this does is it sits against the actual casting face of the table, so that's square to there. This is, like I say, this is all nicely locked up now. Just pinch that up, and those are just pinched up by hand. It's sitting square to there. Next thing I want to do is put my table insert in, and the reason I'm doing this now, before I finish all my settings, is I can set the actual blade up to it. So what I don't want it to be doing is rubbing on one side or the other of the insert. I don't want it like that. I want it roughly in the centre of there. Just make sure the table is approximately in the centre of there. And then what I'm looking to do, because I've got this all square now, I want to take a measurement of across here. So when I put my fence on, I can use the T-slot as a datum, my actual fence. So you can put that onto there and square it up. First of all, let's just set this up. So I've got a 300mm rule, and I'm going to try and find a parallel tuff. I can roughly line the T-slot up to that. So I'm taking a measurement across here, 87, 86, so I'm going to come around a little touch. This is table, pushing against it, pushing against the blade. It doesn't have to be a rule, but you're just doing your initial setting ups for this. And what you can do as well with this, because basically your bandsaw blade is a band, is to get a mean average of it as well. So if I rotate it around a little bit, and during this process as well, I've not got the machine plugged in at all, so just to be on the safe side, messing around with the blade in your hand. And this is quite a fine set on this blade. You'll find with coarser blades, like a 3 TPI or a 4 TPI, this is a little bit easier to do. So it's quite fine. 86, I'm not far off. So that's basically square, and I'm not rubbing on the, more importantly, I'm not rubbing on the table insert as well. So what I can do now is just look to pinch these off. If anything, I could still go that way. I'm not rubbing on the table insert. I'm a little bit close to it, but it's clear. So I'm alright with that. I've got the blade set up square. That's okay. What you could do now, if you wanted to, is do your pointer to make sure that's on 0 there. So that's set up. Now I want to look to actually introduce the fence. So I've already put the fence onto here. Now I've got the little clamps on here. Real nice smooth action on this. That's square to there. So on here I can use it on this side. And also with these pads I can check that it's square against there, because I can get a little bit of movement on there to square the fence off. And more importantly on this little machine, this comes out. Take these two off, two little knobs that you've got on here. Swap those over. Just put a couple of turns on here to start off with. Now I can transfer that there. Bring my fence across to here. So when I want to tilt the table and do some small cuts, I can now use the fence. So it's a nice addition to a medium-sized bandsaw small tabletop, or with a stand. We've got the stand as well, pedal wheel kit. It's a nice addition to it, so it just makes doing your small applications on here a little bit easier. Bring it back to there, and I really do like this part as well. You can actually store your fence and it just slides in. So we put the locking lever up and that will just sit inside of there and clamp it off, so it keeps all the machine together. So hopefully again that's been of some use to you. I'll have another look at the SABRE-250 for a few more maintenance tips that we may do later on, and so hope that's been good for you. So I'll catch up with you soon. Cheers, bye for now.